Hey guys, welcome. So just let me know in the chat. Um, I put my audio settings pretty low because I'm in a fairly loud compound, so people are talking outside and stuff. So hopefully that will eliminate some of the background noise and just have my voice. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, great. Do you hear a lot of background talking or not now? Okay, cool, sweet. And also it's a very dark room. So the video quality isn't superb either, but here we are. Content's all that matters. Did you hear that? Sweet. So really, let's see. I'm going to tune in for a second. I don't have anything to say other than this is just an opportunity for you guys to really share some of your process, some of the process of the homework and the preliminary basic coming to terms with what's going on in the subconscious mind and stuff. And see if there's any way I can help and clarify, and then together we'll just find that stream of inspiration and we'll figure out what it is that needs to be shared today. So let's just all take a minute to drop in, take a deep breath. Connect to God or your grandparents or whatever drops you in. Or like your thoughts, your ideas, the energies of today. And connect to the last 2 weeks or so since our last chat together. And just feel into that time a little bit. And see what you want to bring forth energetically. Obviously, we can't have everyone be personally addressed in this session, but a lot of the things you guys go through is very similar and applicable to all. So just, it's about energetically tuning into the intention of having your past 2 weeks, the process that you've been going through, be cleared up in this talk. Somehow the questions will be perfect and exactly elucidating something that's really helpful for you. So set that intention there, that although only a few people will be addressed personally, that this is part of a group collective energy, and that by helping one, we help all, and we are always helped by every Q&A that occurs during this call, and our process gets streamlined. Good. All right, who would like to raise their digital hand? Okay, so Vin and Wong, I'm going to unmute you. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Hello. Hey, Bentinho.
Hey.
Hey. My question is, when I tune into infinity, or you, the person, or even if I'm just writing in this group, what happens is there's this pressure in the head, and it can stay for days, and it's quite annoying. It's not painful, but it's annoying. But I can get sort of dazed, or it's hard to think or work. yeah, it's hard to do stuff. So first of all, is that normal? Is that part of, is that normal? Yeah, is that normal?
It is normal. Can you guys hear the background singing now? Or no? Is it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, a little bit. All right. Great timing. All right, the Basque's here 5 times a day. Go and sing. So just let me know if at some point you can hear me clearly, okay? It is normal. I mean, not everyone has it, but most people experience something along those lines at some point. And it doesn't necessarily, I've not heard of it often staying for days, but it's a very prevalent sensation for me to have these. Can you describe the sensation a little more accurately? Like, give us a little more precision.
Okay. Sometimes it started in the Sedona experiment number 2 when I did it by live stream, and probably because we were doing it constantly, it just stayed, and it was blissful because I would be in this like sort of open, expansive oneness state. So it was nice in that way, but it was almost not actual pain, but discomfort, and it was hard to just focus. And sometimes it would be like a line of energy from the top into the middle of the head, kind of right to dead center. But sometimes it's just a constant pressure. And if I was only doing that, like during the Sedona experiment number 2, that was fine. But if I had to do other things, it was just really difficult to think clearly. So I just thought my question was like, how do you balance between, it was almost like, yes, if I just want to meditate, that would be fine. But if I want to balance that with actualization, getting things done, how would you do that? I would almost like, sometimes I could force myself out of it, but it took a lot. And sometimes it was almost impossible to force myself out of it. Yeah, how do I balance that? Or is it something I just have to put up with? Would it go away in time? Or yeah, just that was my thoughts about it.
Sweet. Yeah, I would say that is, if that's what is the case for you, then you're gonna have to put up with it. And I would define it as possibility as you can, because it's actually, generally speaking, it's a really positive part of the process.
Okay.
And it is the, if you want to call it that, cosmic downward flowing force coming into the crown and you opening up to that. So it's a good thing. Okay. And for some, this process takes longer, or it's just more prevalent than for other people. But I would be happy with it. I'd be delighted with it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it feels good. It feels like it's advancing, but it's like if I had to work, but just to get things done, it's just really hard.
So try to actively meditate when that happens, meaning understand kind of the principle behind it, which is that there's an energy coming in or going out, so to speak, and there's a certain current that goes through that energy channel. And so very much like when you put a current through a physical channel or a copper wire, for example, the wire needs to be able to channel that amount of energy, so to speak, upgrade its wiring, right? Sometimes you have to upgrade the wiring to allow for more voltage or current to go through. So it's very similar to this, but except it's your body and it's your energy body. So you want to, when that happens, you want to just try doing some deep, relaxed breathing and imagine just everything opening up from the inside out, like your main channels opening up, and even your smaller channels, just see them being filled with light and air and open them, and get into a state of allowing. Like, because if you continue to build a negative relationship to these things by saying, well, this is really unhandy, when many people want this, like they want this awakening, and they want this increasing of the current, and they want this building up of their capacity to handle this current. So if you go and complain that you can't do your work because you're having this awesome thing happen, then you're going to be building a negative relationship to someone else around the world that be seeking would be like, you know, giving it too much meaning. They'd be like, oh yeah, my crown chakra's opening. Oh yeah. And you're like, well, it's really not that handy. It's not that practical right now. So just kind of put it into perspective and context for yourself so that you continue to develop a really sacred relationship with it. Not meaningful, not significant, but sacred, meaning
Right.
appreciating it, valuing it as a gift. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And seeing that it takes precedence over other things. In some ways you could say it's more important than getting work done that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just to value it a little bit more, appreciate it a little bit more, and then continue to develop a really positive and conscious relationship to it, where you breathe more space and breathe more capacity into your channels, so to speak, build up that that wiring.
Okay, cool. It doesn't seem to want to go further down. It seems to be just there. Should it?
Yeah, don't worry about it. No. Those are just concepts. It's totally fine as it is. You can do these types of practices, but you'd have to know, I'd have to be there and have to feel you. And you'd have to know exactly what's happening. And it's pretty technical to really understand what's happening with those subtle energy systems. And it's always different and changing. So I wouldn't worry too much about like thinking that it has to go a certain way or through a certain path or fill up the whole body or only be there. I would just take it as a generally speaking, a positive phenomena that signifies that something is opening and communicating with a higher intelligence. And so just from a really positive state and a state of love and light, just permeate and surround yourself with light and openness and joy and receptivity. And just really enjoy those experiences and see what maybe you can get some messages to or some direction. Or just let it be and like enjoy the bliss of it. See if it can turn into bliss by just receiving it, by opening up to it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Great. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. How do you pronounce your first name?
Bennett.
Bennett. Okay.
Yep, sweet. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Okay, let me go to Jessica's question in the Facebook group. Oh, I think I have the wrong post actually. Did someone just put it in this chat? Did I see that? Okay, cool. So Callie, the post that you made was Jessica's, is that correct? Okay, sweet. Thank you so much. That's helpful. Okay, when mirroring consciousness, how do you maintain stamina? The other day I was talking with a friend and it quickly became clear that I was mirroring. I could see no attachment to any view or that anything I was responding with was true for me. I, if there is an I, wasn't there. After a while, this friend was talking themselves in circle and projecting everything onto just me. This wasn't an issue, but when I could see that there was no progress being made, and it felt like wasting time, I ended the conversation with some concept about boundaries and respect. I don't even know because I was just following a script or something coming through me. I didn't feel any violation of boundaries, but it did seem like adding this element to the situation was what he needed. I'm not sure, however, if ending the conversation came more from the same space of mirroring or simply because Jasmine was getting frustrated, bored, and was more excited by the next thing on her to-do list. I do know that there was zero excitement left in continuing the conversation. Does the concept of following the highest excitement apply to mirror consciousness as well? Is this course going to address this type of experiences? I can see this form of confusion arising more and more as I continue to shapeshift for the beings before me. Wonderful, wonderful. This question alone could take up to a whole session. So we'll see where this goes so far. Let's see. Okay, so the key point here in your story happened when you said, well, two elements. One is you stated that there was a need to respect boundaries, even though that didn't feel personal to you. It didn't feel like you were actually feeling overwhelmed by or infringed upon. But you could sense, this is me sort of assuming. Feel free. Are you on the talk here, by the way? Are you on the session? Might be nice to have you here. I don't think so, huh? Okay. Okay, she's not here. So feeling into this, it can be different things. So this is why we could talk about all the distinctions of this. And it's a little early on actually in the program to be talking about this because it's high level subtlety. In the beginning, I want to focus a little bit more on the foundational work of really clearing out our stuff and just getting solid and getting in that sweet spot of devotion towards the creator, plus performance mode on, like all engines going. And that's more of a personal kind of work that we have to do. But since this comes up now, might as well. So you were mirroring, and without feeling like you were being infringed upon personally, like not feeling bothered, you still feel like it was a good thing to say to this person that they had to respect your boundary. So this happens to me all the time, and this will take on all kinds of shapes and colors and sizes. Okay, so it's something as simple as stating that they should respect boundaries more, can also look like you getting angry with someone, even though it's not actually triggering to you, but you're taking on that role that they need to learn to respect as if you were just another person and not a mirror. So one of the jobs of the mirror, quite naturally, one of the ways that the mirror will be used as well is in way of showing up as if they are a person. So the mirror doesn't only show up as a mirror that doesn't kind of move or do anything. The mirror will also, again, the person standing in the mirror will generate an image of themselves in the mirror, whatever it is that they need to learn. So what you'll find happens quite often is that you actually act as a person, okay? Because what people need to understand and what they need to learn is that they're talking or communicating with another person, even though they're not. But that's the game they have to play. That's the existence that they're in here on Earth. And that's part and parcel of so many of the lessons and balances and corrections that other people will have to experience, including ourselves. But in this example, it's that other person that needs to learn a certain balance that they're unaware of. So if the mirror would stay as a mirror and it couldn't be infringed upon, then there would be no pushback to that person. There would be no personal reflection from another person showing that person that indeed they're crossing a line. So sometimes you have to act as if you feel infringed upon, or not even act. It's just, like you said, it's a message that comes through. Even though you don't feel bothered, there is still the statement, what you're doing right now is unfair. I may not feel treated unfairly, but there's an energy rising in me as if you did treat me unfairly. So it is this paradox of being able to hold both of these spaces. Being in the mirror state, you are able to hold space for that personal interaction to occur, even though it's not an actual representation of how you feel as an entity, as a being. I am not sure, however, if ending the conversation came from the same space of mirroring, or simply because just me was getting frustrated, bored, and was more excited by the next thing on our to-do list. Well, you will find if you are in that clean space, you will find that even if that's the case, it is also a function of what's in the highest benefit in that moment. So in that sense, yes, the excitement, or where you feel the relevance, where you feel the resonance, will continue even when you're in a mirroring state. And so if you feel like just like you felt like you had to state boundaries because that's a blind spot from that person that they didn't see. Similarly, you will also reflect that right now they're not taking this conversation the way that they could, or we've reached a certain threshold and this is not going anywhere. That's also a reflection you can give them, whether it's verbally stated or not. And the way that this is going to be channeled through you is by feeling like it's lacking all interest, like it's still, it's dead. And then you feel like moving on. And so that's what you do. So that's great. I think by the sounds of this story that you shared, I think you did great. And I think it was indeed an experience of shepherding or mirroring that took place here. So wonderful, good question. And to more specifically answer your question, does the concept of following your highest excitement apply to mirror consciousness as well? It does, but in the mirror consciousness state, it just happens. It's clear. It's more like you detect relevance and benefit, and sometimes it comes with a sense of excitement, but it's much less personal. It's much less someone following their excitement or trying to figure it out or it's just the next most obvious thing that flows into your experience. So it's not really personal. No, like you're following your highest excitement. It just happens and there's no obstruction to it. So there's no following it. It just happens. You see? The only way we can follow our excitement is if we can not follow our excitement or highest resonance. But in the mirror state, or in the higher shepherding states, you will find that you're already flowing with it. So there's no following your excitement. It's just a sequence of relevant experiences. And when they dry up, you will naturally move out of them and into the next more juicy or more relevant or more beneficial experience. Again, remember the mirror detects benefit. And it can come with an energy of excitement, but it's a natural flowing into what's most beneficial. Okay, Shunya, feel free to unmute yourself when you're ready.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Hi, Bentinho.
Hey.
Hi. A lot have happened since our last call, especially because I started to prioritize what is blocking me, try to get going in that direction. And it was a lot of meditation, basically, and the practice. So a lot of things I got to understand. And so I'm really full on that. And my question is about meditation. In one of your videos on self-realization, season 3, you talk about 2 active meditation, like meditation when you're active. And one of them is to focus on something that doesn't change while I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And I have this kind of sound when I'm going a bit deep meditation. There's like a buzz. I don't know if you know about it. It's like a buzz, like it feels like some tension. It's not from the outside. I don't think it's from the body, so it's a tension there. And for me, it's something very stable to focus on because it's always there. If you're familiar with that, my question is it good to lock on that sound to kind of keep the meditation flowing in that state?
Absolutely, yes. And while you do that, keep the intention to rest and sink deeper, quote unquote, back into the allness. Don't keep it as a focal point.
Okay.
Use it as a stability, but it's more of ideally you're kind of like blending with the background of awareness, or even noticing or intuiting the infinite, indescribable beyond that. So don't fixate on it as if in front of you, but do use it as something that you can feel and tune into as a subtle vibration that is stably available to you. That's very helpful. Does that make sense, that distinction?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yes, you use it, but you continue to go deeper through it. You don't make it an object.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay.
So it was good because I felt it always there. It's always, I mean, as soon as I quiet the mind, is that normal? Is that the sound is, you know what I'm talking about, the sound?
I know what you're talking about, but not everyone experiences that, no. And I generally don't experience sound. I experience just the sensations that happen to the energy body when you're resting in that deeper state. And that also provides a stability. And one example is what Benon was sharing. For example, you can feel a certain pressure on your energy body or on your crown chakra or in your head. There's different kinds of sensations or sounds or even sights that you could lock onto. It can help with concentration. But what's important again is when you can use it for stability, but don't use it as an object. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Another short question is that when I do that, is I listen to that, I automatically feel some sensation up here. And it usually comes together. It's like I know that I'm a bit deeper than the chatting mind. So
Yes.
it's just to have it kind of in front of me and relax into it.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes, great. And just continue to merge into the background. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go deeper, deeper, deeper. Become more and more formless, more and more the subject, less and less the object. Be the knower of the sound. But when you start to know the knower, you may start to hear sound or feel sound or feel vibration or feel light or see light or whatever. Or not. Nothing may happen either. It doesn't matter. You can feel totally empty as well. But usually there will be some subtler state or object or appearance that arises or phenomena as a result of going deeper into the knower. And these can serve both as anchors as well as distractions. It's kind of like initially they are to aid you and assist you, but if you go deeper using them and then you stay fixated on them, you can no longer go deeper. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're kind of tied to that object.
You need to let go of that. Yeah.
Yes. There's like an anchor behind you and you were like pulling yourself backwards farther and farther, but now the anchor is in front of you and you gotta let it go. Or at least not focus on it. It can be there. If it comes and goes, it can be there, it doesn't matter. But now your focus becomes, the more that you mature in this self-realization practice and knowing the knower, the more you can just know the knower without it having to have kind of an anchoring sensation. The knower itself can be known. That's always changeless. Once you develop enough subtlety of consciousness, subtlety of mind, you can recognize the knower knowing itself without needing any intermediary vibration or hum to continue to focus on it.
Yeah.
But it might still arise as a phenomenon, but it won't be necessary for you.
Okay. I can find a new anchor and take it pull and take a new anchor until nothing's there.
Exactly. So you go subtler and subtler.
Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So my friends, not a lot of questions this week, huh? Did you guys do your homework? Here we go. All right, Ulrika, feel free to unmute yourself whenever you're ready.
Hello there.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay.
Oh, Enrique. No, I said Ulrika. Nice.
Ulrika, that's correct.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. It's very interesting what happened with me after the first session with you. I completely stepped up on a different level when it comes to speaking my truth. It's almost like it's a Tourette's. It's like almost like I can't hold back the truth any longer. And it completely happened after the first meeting with you. And it has to do with a lot of political things in my country. We have an election coming up and people are kind of asleep. Sweden. And people are very much asleep here. So what I'm saying is pretty much very offending people. So my question is, what's happening in me is that it's almost like I'm forcing myself to speak the truth in order to deal with my own fears about stepping above this whole matrix. So now I'm all fearful in this and can't really connect and, you know, just be in my higher self, because all these fears are coming up again. Like people will think I'm a racist, and there's all these things. So I'm thinking, what is your it's like when you're taking that stand, and then you have to deal with all that fear that's coming on your body, because you're doing something that's not really coming from the person of me. I don't know if it makes any sense.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that then?
Are you not enjoying the process of being a shepherd?
No, not yet, because I'm probably have so much fear. It triggers.
Yeah, so that's great, right? This is the journey. It's such a beautiful example. And I love that it's with politics, so it makes it really tangible. Because very tangible things will happen around you. You know, even if you're a very spiritually oriented being, or you meditate a lot and you're very much in the self-realization mode, nevertheless, quote unquote, around you, you'll be affecting very tangible things, and you'll be interacting and bumping up to a world that's pre-existent, so to speak, that already has its ideas and what have you. And this is the perfect reflection that the shepherd needs to purify themselves. So I want to encourage everyone to understand that this is just the very beginning. This is an example of some of the challenges that we as civilization upgraders will have to be able to deal with appropriately. And by appropriately, I mean mostly take that process and learn from it everything that you can about where you're holding on to identity. The main duty of the shepherd is to transcend the personal needs and preferences and need for validation and acceptance of and I'll speak a little bit about this in the first foundational session. We'll speak a lot about the shift that is required, and probably also in the Hawaii retreat for those that are going to tune in or going to attend. Actually, what's very important for the shepherd to understand is to become sensitive to this. You can call it the third chakra ceiling or threshold, if you will. And there's sort of a ceiling between the personal self and truly being able to become an embodiment of being a shepherd. And that threshold is the main thing that we'll be working with on a very practical level, very tangible, personal, psychological level, is moving through that threshold and then dealing with the challenge that comes with that. So that is the whole process, is about letting go of what anyone thinks of you, letting go of your need for friendship, letting go of your need and desire for partnership, letting go of your need and desire for validation of any kind, so that you can truly step into that authenticity. Otherwise, you will never fully crystallize the heart, the throat, and the third eye. So this is great. You know, you're stepping it up, you're becoming a channel, you're kind of like jumping above that ceiling, above that threshold. And now from that higher state, you're channeling, you're downloading information, and it's flowing through you with this sort of intelligence and a benevolence, right?
Yes.
But then the repercussions of it, you're still taking personally. So
yes.
The trickiest thing is it's really the growing pains of a person becoming a shepherd. You're at that stage right now where the person is really wanting to become the shepherd, and you're in that transformational process. The diamond only gets created under great pressure. So again, you tune into something that's true, and you become a channel for the higher, and then that will have repercussions in a very tangible 3D going into 4D world. And so you're going to get some of these reflections. These reflections are always partial opinions and perspectives of people that don't understand where you're coming from. They don't understand this stuff, right? It's not part of their vocabulary or their awareness. So they will not recognize where something comes from in you when it comes from a higher state of benevolence, an impersonal state of consciousness. So it's a funny paradox of like really becoming it's almost like becoming battle hardened, but in a really soft and surrendered way. But you develop a sort of brightness and crystallization that also acts in a way like a barrier to that kind of negativity. You just become less and less, you become more and more sensitive to it, but you become less and less personally caring about it. So the reflections that you get back from tuning into something higher, you channel something higher that is not of this density, so to speak, but you channel it into this density by the very nature of your incarnation. So reflections you're going to get back is not like, oh my God, thank you, Ulrika, that was so beautiful and wise, and you're such a shepherd. You're going to get, you're a bitch, what are you thinking?
Yes,
So,
exactly.
so then it's up to you to see if you want, you'll see how it activates your person, everything about you that still exists below the third density ceiling, so to speak, or the third chakra ceiling, you could say as well. Where it's all about who am I in relationship to other people? What's my social status? What's my social sense of belonging and acceptance and validation and friendship and all that? So that's going to come up big time. And it offers you a choice every single time to either choose yourself as being a person, either to solidify the idea, no, I am a person, I need understanding, I need validation, I need friends, or to reinforce the other way and say, I've got this whole community of shepherds. This is what I signed up for the next year or so. I'm going to go through these growing pains. I recognize where this is coming from, and it's exciting to me because I see that this is exactly what Ben's been talking about, and it's happening. I'm stepping up my game, and this is the result. So I'm excited. Bring it on. And so it's a two, and I want everyone to pay attention to this. This is a great example, and it's how you're going to need to deal with this is two dual layers. It's got two layers to it. One is, like I just said, you have the choice every moment where a higher reflection gets reflected back to you by a distorted civilization that we're here to upgrade. You have a choice. Do I want to respond and anchor in the feeling that I am actually a person? Or am I going to use this and choose to look at it from a space of being a cosmic being, which is what the shepherd does. It understands its cosmic eternal nature as a soul, and it understands it's here to be of service, and it's able to open the heart space for that and understand, have compassion for self and other self, and not react as much. That's the step. The step is the choice. And there's another part of this process, which is to become really aware of in what ways you were triggered to be a person, in what ways you were encouraged to be a person, what within you, what belief systems in you still make you susceptible to responding from below the belt, so to speak, from below the ceiling. So again, two things. One is you always given this opportunity. Do I want to respond as a shepherd? Do I want to anchor in the sensation and the awareness that I'm a shepherd and understand that this is part of the process and it's positive? Or do I want to see this as negative and run for the comfort of validation and explanation and being understood? So, and then while that's going on, while you make your choice, also include the lower portion, even though you're transcending it, even though you're committed to being a shepherd, you also want to, even if it's after the fact, but at some point you want to look into knowing and accepting yourself so that you can become the creator as a whole being, and you don't leave any partial aspects of yourself behind. You're not suppressing, you're not avoiding, you're not bypassing. So yes, set the standard high. Yes, initially kind of bypass, like go, no, this is great and this is what I want to respond from. But then if you have a little bit of space and a little bit of time, you want to look at why was I triggered there, or what was the tricky point? What was this need for validation in me? And you want to investigate that. You want to get to the core beliefs and see that it's yucky to believe that. It's not what you want. It's not the truth. And it's completely spoon-fed to you. And it's not original to who you are. So you can resolve it. You can let it go. You can love it, accept it, and move on from it. So one is the choice, and two, you could say, is the healing or the integration or the understanding of your lower self.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Bentinho. Yeah. And it's actually so interesting how exciting that it's happening after this first call with you. It's almost like I can't stop it. It's just, I can't stop it. It's just coming out of me. And then I have to process and deal with it afterwards. So it's just, there's no turning back of speaking the truth, of helping a broader perspective of people. And
yes. Yeah, I think I'll have to create kind of like Xavier's School for Gifted individuals from X-Men. I think we have to create some kind of safe haven where if all shit hits the fan, shepherds can return and regroup and report each other.
Thank you. That was you answered the question really good. Thank you so much.
Thanks. So
it really helped me.
Sweet. Good job, Marika. Very nice.
Thanks.
So if Sweden turns racist, then we know who's to blame, huh? All right, Enrique, feel free to unmute yourself.
Hello there.
Hey.
My question, ever since I met you personally in Sedona back in October of last year, I've been happily receiving the influence from several teachers. That was, I mean, prior to that, I only stayed with a few teachers, but now I've been creating all these wonderful teachers coming into my life and feeling a lot of attraction for their energy. So the question is, and I just want to make sure that I'm not fooling myself. I mean, I feel great about it. I see the different energies from different teachers, just empowering myself a great deal in different ways, very subtle ways. But since there were not too many questions today, I said, okay, let's double check and confirm that with you, how you see that.
Cool. How do I see what?
If it's productive to be influenced by several teachers on an energetic and teaching level.
Depends on the individual, but I think it is usually. I think more often than not, that's what's happening anyway. We're not aware of it. So it's kind of like energetically, yes, it's almost for everybody, pretty much for everyone happening all the time. There's different teachers and guides that are supporting us. And different fields of resonance that we enter into as we grow in consciousness that also act as teachers. So yes, it is helpful, essentially speaking, to be approached from different angles in different ways and different vibrations. That being said, on a conscious mind level, it depends on the person. It may or may not be helpful to read 10 books instead of 1 book. It may or may not be helpful to do 5 practices instead of 1 practice. So this is hard to say. This really depends on your mood, on who you are, what you're capable of, just really what's the most relevant for you to learn at this time. So I'd say yes, and if it excites you and it shows up effortlessly, please continue to go along that route. If you notice, however, that you're not digging really deep into any of the practices and you'd like to get more results and more transcendence with any one of those practices, try to stick with 1 or 2 practices more than continuing to explore. Just for a while, continue to really practice it, and step away from the books for a month or so, or even just a week or 2, and really get into the practice and into the retreat setting for yourself. And then you'll know what's most exciting and you'll attract that again. So I would say in general, yes. And for you, it feels like resonant that you're attracting all this. But if it starts to feel overwhelming and you feel like you need to just kind of focus and penetrate in one particular area or way, then you would have to devote yourself to 1 practice, most likely, or 1 teacher or 1 book. Or
Okay, great. Thanks.
cool. Thank you. Monica, Barbie Arts. If you can unmute yourself.
Okay. Hi.
Hey, let me spotlight your video here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I had a question regarding the meditation after Sunjan shared his question. For me, it's about mental containers, because so I don't know if it's similar to kind of like, maybe I'm focusing. You talk about like, let go of the focus and really be more that the knower in the the field. But I still, when I go into these deep states, and even I'm feeling how I am kind of bringing that throughout my day in interaction with other people, and I still felt that, I feel that I am inside a mental container, so to say. Sometimes I don't. I feel like risk is expanding being, and then it's like, wow, I'm there. It doesn't last for long, and so I want that more. I have difficulty when interacting with people, just kind of remain in that space, and also like yes, like feeling, how can I just really go beyond this mental container, even if there is no a thought per se. I feel that there is this so anyway, I wanted just to have more clarification around that.
Well, what's your truest desire in this? Like, what would you really love to happen or occur or experience?
My real desire is to just be really in that state of self-realization all the time, like that I'm not.
And why don't you?
That feel of awareness that I am that,
Why don't you?
Huh?
Why don't you? What is your remaining allegiance to something else? You must have a different priority. The nature of change is that you have exactly what you want, even when you say you want something else. So you say you want to be more absorbed in a state of self-realization all the time, but then you don't have it. So you must have a different priority. What are those priorities?
Well, when you ask me this, what it comes to me right now is like, maybe I'm following my excitements, and then I get maybe lost in that. I don't know. Maybe it's a question that I need to keep asking. I think that my priority is really, or I think, again, I think, throughout my day, my priorities come back again to that state again and again, more and more. I'm not there all the time. What is holding me? Well, I am still living from the person, not from that.
So then stop. Stop doing that. There's only the change or the postponement of the change. There's nothing in between. There's no working towards the change or the shift. Even though anything you do to work towards the change or the shift is just another postponement of the shift. It's okay. Certain postponements of the shift get you closer to understanding that you've been postponing the shift to make you realize that now you actually are ready to make the shift. But mechanically speaking, there's only the change or the postponement of the change. So if we gain understanding or awareness of why we postpone the shift that we say we desire, then it's our only way to mature to the point where we will then actually just change or shift. Because we won't have any allegiance left. But we have to observe very clearly what is our remaining allegiance to our current habituated self. What do we believe? For who are we living? For what are we living? To what end? To what desire do we have? How is it going to be beneficial? What value does it offer us that's so important to hold on to and not change? Come up with all these practices to postpone the change, making ourselves feel good about like getting closer to the change. You can never get closer to the change. You either change or you don't change yet. And that not changing yet can look like anything. It can look like going closer to the change. But it's not. So you have to really ask yourself, what is my remaining allegiance with not changing, with the opposite of what I say I want? So what is that for you? Can you figure that out over the next few days and share it with us in the group?
Okay, that sounds great.
Good. Because here's the thing, if you have the capacity to sense or intuit the state or the change that you desire, then you absolutely have the capacity to shift into it now. The only reason you're not doing it is because you have a different priority. You have your allegiance with your current sense of self or safety or comfort or validation or whatever it is you're getting. And what you'll see later on in this course, and also during the Hawaii retreat probably, is really how pervasive, how completely saturated we are with the need for validation. It controls 99.9% of our body language, our facial expressions, our intonation, what we say, when we say it, how often we say it. Every expression that we do into the world is usually 99 or more percent filtered through the need for validation. When you can see that, you really gain a great deal of freedom. When you start operating from above that third density ceiling, everything below it is for others. It's for the opinion of others, which ends up being for self, because it's for your self-image. You live for what others think, but it's really self-serving. The shepherd lives predominantly above the line, lives predominantly from the heart. The mirror lives predominantly from up here and up there. But the shepherd is in process of becoming a full, clear embodiment of source. So in that process, you're going to have to deal with that threshold over and over again. And you're going to get challenged, again, like I said to Ulrika as well. But if you start to see so clearly in your consciousness all the constructs as to why you do, why you laugh. Why do you laugh? You know, like 90% of the time, why do you laugh in social circumstances? Why do you smile? Why do you look at someone or look away from them? Why do you bat your eyes in a certain way or smile when it's not authentic? Or why do you use your hands while you're speaking? Are you even aware of the energy that's coming forth through it? Are you trying to convince someone? Why do you look real serious when you're explaining something? Do you believe that it gets more value out or something so you can convince and manipulate them into liking you more or believing like you have some intelligence or authority? Or why are you really shy when you speak? Do you believe it'll make you more likable? And you see, so these are all clear signs that we're living for others, which is really self-serving because it's about serving our self-image. The shepherd shifts to predominantly being devoted to the actual benefit of people. There's only two things in this world you can be devoted to, more or less. To others, meaning you can either live for others in a negative way, like for your self-image, living for other people, or what will they think of you? Or you can live for the benefit of others. And these are very, 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 very distinct. They're not, rarely are they the same expression, hardly ever. This means also that when you express yourself or make a change, and the reason I'm sharing all this with you is because you'd be surprised how much of this plays into you not changing when it comes to self-realization, having been more fully matured. Because again, 99.9% of our motivations is just generated for the self-image, therefore trying to please others in some way. So you can either do what you do for others, or you can do what you do for the benefit of others. And that's a whole nother level. The benefit of others is this field of the collective's truest, highest benefit. And it requires you to be plugged in and to rise above that third chakra ceiling of social validation, social belonging. So can you truly be free and unplugged? Can you not need anyone to think anything of you, to love you, to show you affection, anything? Can we get to a point where we are so fulfilled within ourselves, so connected to God, that the majority of our energy is always coming from being of benefit to people, not doing things for ourselves in the way of their thoughts of us? Does this make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. It's great what you're saying. It's just to the point. I can just feel it all over me.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. So yeah, make that conscious to yourself and I would love for you to share this in the group when you get more awareness as to what your priorities are that were unconscious, that didn't allow you to shift. That'd be great.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kathy, feel free to unmute yourself. Hello? I'm not getting any sound on your end. No sound. Oh, this is a telepathic question. Okay. Well, yeah, why don't you type it? But in the meantime, in the interest of time as well, I just have 15 minutes left. I'll move on to the next question. Sahaja, Nadia, Leonard, unmute yourself whenever you're ready. Hello.
Okay.
Yes.
So actually, most of my question, or no, I have to say it differently. The answer you gave to Monica before just answered some of my question. Actually, I think it answered the deepest part.
Okay.
But still, I would like to address it if that's okay.
Sure.
Throughout the last 2 weeks, I actually realized it's kind of easier for me to be this cosmic presence than being really, fully physically present and being this physical presence in this world. And the question for me was really, how do I ground myself more? But before, when you said to Monica that if you could change, then you would do, or if you knew what it was, you could do it. And I realized, okay, I actually realized it's about safety. It seems so much more safe to be the cosmic presence than to be really here and show up and show myself in my body, in my, yeah. So it's actually a big one for me, because I realized actually only this morning part of me was not really born yet. It's like coming from upwards down, but not, some part of me was not born. So yeah.
Okay, could you summarize that for me in under 1 minute? What is your desire? What's your question?
Yes.
I think I got most of what you shared in terms of the story, but what's the question?
Yeah. The question before was, how do I ground myself more? My desire is to be physically more present, to be really here as much as I'm
that's very simple. It's very simple. You just be physically more present. Again, there's only the change or the postponement of the change. There is no in between. So this is the beautiful thing. And this is, if you really accelerate, you start to see this, and it starts to get rid of 99% of your questions, because you realize that the questions you're asking usually are how. Have you noticed? Like, I want this, but I have that. How? How do I bridge this? How do I get to where I want to go? It's usually a variation of I don't know how, or I want to know how, or I want clarity on this. So there is, if you really understand the nature of change in parallel realities, and that there's infinite possibilities right here in your consciousness, then you begin to understand real quick that that every question along the lines of how is just another excuse. You know what the change is. You can describe it perfectly. You could probably write a book about what you want. And then you pretend like you can't choose it. The only reason you would do that, the only reason you would postpone shifting into what you perfectly well know you want, which you just described to me. So then why don't you just do it? Now that's the real question. The question is not how to get there. The question is, why aren't you choosing to be that? So just like Monica, I'm going to return the same question to you. And we may as well just make that the homework for the next week or two until the next session, because it seems to be the theme. State, so in your homework, and again, I'd love that you guys share your homework. That was great. It really gives us a sense of where you're at and allows us to grow together in greater depth. But in your homework to yourself, just tune in and state into what it is you want the most. Like, what do you really want? And you can also do this with different areas. Like if you have different things you're working on or different projects or different intentions, you can do the same homework with each intention. But anytime you have an intention of any kind, whether it's for self-realization or actualization, you write that down. My intention is, my desire is, my want is this. And then realize that any question regarding how is obsolete because you just described it. Mm-hmm. You just described exactly what you want. Your consciousness with infinite possibilities awaiting its activation. You just have to shift into it, see it, feel it, be it. And basically just decide it. So why are you deciding to not be that which you so beautifully just expressed as your clear desire? Why not just be that? Why refuse to be that consistently? So you must have other allegiance. So I'm not shifting because this or this or this. And when you can clarify that, it turns the question around and it's 100 million times faster resolution. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much instant because all you need, you already know what you truly want, what your higher self truly want, what you really is, what you're capable of. All you need to do is become aware of all the ways in which you believe that you have to be other than that which you want to be. And if you can do that, it starts to resolve. Because the truth is, you all already are that which you want to be the most. You're only covering it up with everything that you believe. So the more you're aware of those beliefs, the more they resolve, and the more you realize, wait a second, I already am this light. I already am this brightness. And then you just start radiating, you start crystallizing, you start serving, you just start enjoying, loving, being. So the question is never how do I get there? How do I do it? The question is always, why am I not doing it yet? What must I believe is true in order to pretend like I can't change now? What are my remaining allegiances to the non-changed state? Does this make sense?
That makes total sense. Thank you so much. That's very beautiful.
Yeah, it's a different way of engaging with your process of change, and I'm guaranteeing all you guys is going to accelerate like crazy when you realize this. You're just going to be boop, 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 every day, every week, every month. You're going to be different. Super accelerated living, basically, because you realize there is no obstacle except for your own allegiances. Mm-hmm. You never have something you don't really want, and you never get what you don't really want. So if you say you want it, but you don't have it, you must want something else. Instead of trying to fight that secret desire, that secret allegiance by pretending to do practices to get to where you know you already are, why not just become aware of your mixed frequencies, of how you're actually lying to yourself so that you can resolve them? And then you are what you want it to be. Then you don't have to talk about it because it is.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me see. Did Kathy write a question in the group? I didn't see it.
Hi, can you hear me?
Not yet. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can.
You know, I answered it because I get what you're saying. If I'm asking the question, I mean, I know the answers. And it was back to where, you know, when you're in these, like, as a teacher, and maybe you have a student that comes in that has patterns of being very angry and lashing out. And to be the love and light, it's like I can be that, but now I know, even with like I would say a higher perspective, is to see it, feel it, feel it for every interaction with that child. But there's still, I can see that there's wanting to perform, wanting to be heard, wanting to be right, still there, that's inhibiting me from believing that that can be consistent. And you saw that. I saw that from, answering my own question and hearing everybody else's reply and yours too. And I guess I just would want you to, well, I get it, but to comment more on how to hold that frequency consistently and not going back as the habits of mine of lack that I can't do this, or I can't hold that frequency of, my God self and presence all the time.
Did you just ask a how question?
Huh? I know. But, well, just, share your perspective. Because I get it, I think, but I just haven't had enough of it.
Exactly. So even when it comes to things like maintaining. So, okay, so there's one, you can ask a question like, I want to be in this state. How do I get there? Maybe I'll give you a little hint or description. But once you know what it's like, once you have the intention or the experience or the intuition, then usually for people, the experience or the question starts to shift. The desire becomes a wanting to continuously regenerate it, or in other words, in more stale words, say maintain it. But it's really a process of regenerating it all the time. In order to do that, you need to really want it. But again, if a brick would fall on your head every minute that you weren't aware in the preferred state, you would make sure that you'd be aware in the preferred state, right? If your life depended on it, you would, because your priorities would be that. So we say that we want to maintain that state, and then we ask how. But really more helpful is to look 10 times or 100 times faster, is to look at what are my other allegiances that make me basically lazy or uncommitted to just regenerating that state. I must have other priorities. And again, you'll see that the majority of them have something to do, whether directly or indirectly, with pleasing other people or making them love you or like you. Even when you think you've transcended it, it's like, whoop. I still see subtle strands in myself of how this is operated and become part of who I am, my behavior, how I learn to speak, and all that stuff. So it's just a matter of continuously being aware of it. It's just, it gets so subtle that it won't bother you anymore. It won't be an obstacle to what you want to accomplish. It won't be an obstacle to being of service in a very clear and pure way. But you can see that it's part and parcel of the conditioning of the individuated expression. We're, in some senses, we're a complete product of our environment, and the motivation to be a product of our environment is always to do with who am I in relationship to others, as a sense of base self-worth and value that we extract benefit from, or we believe we do. So instead of asking, how will I maintain that state more consistently? You could if you had to. So you're willingly not. All you need to figure out is why you're willingly not maintaining that state. And there's a belief there's a reason that you're not. There is a reasoning that you have. If you can highlight this, identify it, and share it with yourself and others in this group, then you're going to accelerate greatly. You're going to realize, like, oh, it's up to me. If I want to, I can maintain it, which is very empowering to realize that it's not a question of I cannot and I don't know how to regenerate it all the time. I don't know how to maintain this state. It's not about that. It's not true. It's very liberating to see that. Then you can still choose not to do that, but you won't feel as bad about it anymore because you now know that you can when you really want to. So at least you're truthful with yourself. You're in alignment. You're no longer filled with these mixed vibrations and these secret lies within yourself. Make sense?
Totally.
Sweet. Looking forward to your homework. All right. So let's see if we can address these final two questions real quick here. Raquel, if you can unmute yourself.
Hi, Bentinho. I was wondering if you could share a way to hack our subconscious, or if we just keep doing the first assignment on and on, we could just peel all the layers and get right to the core.
What is the first assignment? What do you mean by that?
The first assignment, the one we did, where what was really getting in the way for embracing our highest self. That was the first assignment. And my question is, if you could share a potent exercise where we can hack the subconscious and go like directly to the core of it, or do you? Or
Well, you must have an assumption that that's the fastest way to do something. You must have an idea about the subconscious and stuff. Why don't you just share your most intense or truest desire with me? Like, what do you want to accomplish?
Well, mostly get over my shit, all of it.
Okay, get over all of your shit.
Yes.
Okay, great. All at once,
If I
or
could.
bit by bit.
Well, if there is a faster way, I'm willing to do it.
Well, you're asking for a hack, right? So you must be after the super speed.
Yes.
Okay. All right, are you ready?
Yes.
Get over all of your shit.
Okay.
Simple. Why aren't you?
Well, no, I think I have to dive deeper then. I believe, I don't know why, I've always believed that there's like this subconscious blocks, like
There's either the change or the postponement of change. Any type of perspective that you have on a journey, on the process, when you entertain that, you're literally saying to yourself, like in the same sentence, you may say like, this is what I want, but I believe I have to hack the subconscious. Literally what's happening there's a mixed frequency. You see that? There's the desire that's stated, and then there is an opposite desire coming in and then disguising itself as an excuse, disguising itself as a spiritual law or principle or obstacle that you couldn't possibly get behind. But I promise you, if you know what it's like, if you know what you're after, you can be it now. If you're not, it means you have other priorities. So again, become aware of the other priorities. That's the most relevant. That's the fastest way. Because otherwise you're just going to run around with these, call it the subconscious, if you will. And then you're not going to do this. So it's actually the subconscious that's sabotaging you right now. You say you want this, but you haven't really owned or admitted your other desires yet. So what would you say that is? What are your remaining allegiances?
Yeah, you're right. I think I'm giving much power to my subconscious instead of just doing it and trusting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, sweet. Enjoy the homework.
Thanks.
All right, one more. Yes, no, or guess no. You can unmute yourself when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just wanted to know how, if you want to share why you changed from doing the self-realization school to more like now going for self-actualization in this course. Just, you know, how this came that you kind of changed the directive. It's like, was this side, and now it's more like coming from different angles. Do you do it because you see that people want it, that we all want it, like doing it like more like this, or what?
Really, I'm really just doing it to confuse the shit out of everybody. It's my main intention. I have other intentions, but that's my main one. No, I'm just kidding. I think. Let me do my homework on that one. But it's not that we're totally shifting, because it is a little bit, you're right, but I will include quite a bit of self-realization as well. But they will be specific sessions mostly, rather than having it be completely mixed in or blended with these sessions. It's good to focus on one thing at a time and really get your engines going in a particular way of understanding and seeing and breaking through. And occasionally they can sort of contradict each other energetically. So it's best to schedule a separate session, so to speak, just to go into the self-realization deep in that aspect. And then the next session, again, like emerge from that in a new and powerful way. So they walk hand in hand, as you know by now. But it's not necessarily that I chose deliberately, okay, I'm going to shift from self-realization to more actualization. What happened was that I was really interested in working with leaders. And one main aspect of leadership, or becoming a civilization upgrader, is actualization. It's a big part of it. So it's almost kind of assuming that you're doing your self-realization homework as well, because you're wanting to be a leader, you know you have to always purify yourself. And self-realization really is the heart of actualization. And so, but I've just done, 4 whole seasons on laying that out completely in depth and in detail. So what we'll be doing in this course, and for the application process, that's part of the reason why I asked, which courses of the Academy have you followed? Which seasons of self-realization school have you seen? Because I'm assuming that you have a certain level of clarity on this. So that when I do address it, it like drops in deeply for you, because you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's just a powerful reminder, and it's reconnecting to it more powerfully and emptying out even more. But I'm kind of counting on you guys to do your self-realization homework all the time anyway, because it's the most amazing thing you could do to yourself, the universe, everything. It is the one infinite creator waking up to itself through your incarnation. That is the main cause of creation to begin with. It's for the one infinite creator to know itself. So I'm counting on you guys for doing that. And then the nature of this program really is to generate the effect of powerful leaders going out into the world and making amazing changes and supporting people in this shift that's happening. So given that the main intention of this program is to produce powerful leaders that are able to also hold space in the world, it's about 20% self-realization and 80% self-actualization for this course. But again, that assumes that you have a deep love for self-realization on your own. And some of you may not have that as much, and you'll still get by just fine in the self-actualization of this course. And you'll deepen it anyway, nevertheless. But it's really going to be this amazing harmony if you have already an innate love for self-realization. It's just going to complete everything for you. And everything I share is going to make so much more sense against that background of self-realization. So if you are not that familiar with it yet, I did accept some applications where people didn't really do any of the courses, or not many, just because I had a good feeling about it, or intuition told me that I should just say yes, regardless of their resume, so to speak. But check out the Self-Realization School at BentinhoMassaro.tv. You got free access to it for a year, so plenty of time to watch all 4 seasons, and also watch the 12-day Sedona retreat if you weren't part of that or haven't seen it yet. Does this answer your question?
Yes.
Sweet. Thank you, my friends, for this rapid fire check-in Q&A. You all clear on your homework? If not, feel free to ask again in the group. We can create a little template for your homework, but in any way you want to do it that feels true to you is fine, as long as you get the principle of what I shared with those 2 or 3 people on this call. It's about seeing how you're sabotaging yourself. It's about seeing how you actually have other priorities than what you say you want the most. That's the only reason why you're not changing yet, why you're still postponing the change, even when you're dressing up the postponement of the change in spiritual words or practices. That doesn't make it any less postponement, because remember, there's only 2 things in this world. There's the shift or the postponement of the shift. There's nothing in between. You can change now, you can shift now. If you're talking about it, you have other priorities. If you're asking about it, you have other priorities. If you think you don't know how to do it, you have other priorities. If you're practicing the change, you have other priorities. If you really, really want the change, you would just change. You have it, you are it, it's here. There's nothing in between. Practice that and write down all the bullshit or all the other priorities with love. It's love, love the bullshit. But write it all down so that, again, it's clear to you, like the first exercise. It's just about making it conscious so that we can clear that slate and really really develop this habit of getting really truthful with ourselves at a deep level. Only then can we accelerate and truly communicate honestly and powerfully and make some epic fucking changes this year. So thank you all. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, good midnight, wherever you're at. Lots of love, it's all now. And yeah, we'll stay in touch in the group. And again, free access to attend and also live stream the Hawaii retreat that's coming up April 8th through 13th. So might as well check into that as well. Get some upgrades from that. And then we have our first foundation session right after that on the 15th. There's one break day in between the end of the retreat and the 4 or 5 hour long session that we'll have on the 15th of April. All right. Love you guys. Have fun changing. No excuses.